Well, good morning from glorious, sunny, beautiful Anaheim, California. We're back at Disneyland. I just parked my very, very oversized vehicle, the van, heading through security and onto the park itself. Ah, yes. The traditional Disney fans' method of transportation, the tram. I don't know about you, but I always go for the back row. That way nobody's back here breathing on your neck. Instead, I get to be the one breathing on everybody else's neck. Well, this tram route has certainly undergone many changes since they first put this parking structure back here that I just parked in. It still undergoes changes from time to time. Now as we unload from the tram, and there goes the monorail, that's right. Just thinking about how the other night they used the unload area for loading and the loading area for the unloading. Every time there's construction or changes, you might get a little reroute of the good old-fashioned tram. Huh? Off it goes. The trams have been around forever, virtually since the very beginning of Disneyland. I believe Bob Gurr designed the first parking lot tram here at the park. But even growing up in Anaheim, like right across the street basically, I almost feel like the tram is this very modern thing, because as a kid, I never rode the tram because the parking lot was right here. And even though there was a tram in it, when you're 7 years old or 10 years old or whatever, even if you parked way back there, if you could physically see Disneyland, there was no way we were gonna wait for a tram, right? We were just gonna start walking towards that train station. So except for the mini tram over to the Disneyland Hotel, because sometimes we'd park there and take the monorail in, I don't think I ever rode on the tram until they built DCA here. By the way, speaking of construction and changes, and the reason the tram was rerouted the other night. Look at this, just to the right of the entrance to DCA, you can see some active construction or demolition going on right now. Got all these big scoops and earth movers actively working because the old Earl of Sandwich building, which was originally the La Brea Bakery at the entrance to downtown Disney over here, as well as a couple of the ticket booths that used to block your path towards DCA. There are still two standing over here on kind of the Disneyland side of the path. These are the ticket booths that were replaced the original ones that were standing right out in front of the Disneyland Park entrance. They went through several iterations, but basically there were ticket booths right outside the turnstile since 1955 until they built DCA, when they added ticket booths on either side of the Esplanade, the gap between DCA and Disneyland. And now that they've moved to basically more online ticketing systems, they have decided that these massive multi-windowed ticket booths are no longer it. And you can actually see a sign of why they're being replaced right there on the ticket booth itself. Download the Disneyland app. Soon everything will be an app, my friends. Well, until they plant the chip in our heads that takes over from the apps. Anyway, there were two more of these massive ticket booths just across this temporary construction fence right there. The Earl of Sandwich building was right down yonder, and as you can see, they're doing all that demolition and preparing the ground for a new building, an absolutely massive Porto's Bakery and Cafe. Just goes to show you, things never really stay static down at the Disneyland Resort for long. It's one of the passions of my life is being obsessed with the changes that have happened here at Disneyland from 1955 until 2026 when we're standing out here now. I'm absolutely obsessed with collecting old images of Disneyland, old film of Disneyland, old video, old VHS tape of Disneyland, or DCA, although it obviously has a less extensive history. I absolutely love when people send me old slides or old photos of Disneyland to help me expand the scarchives, if you will. Oh, someone's doing a little drawing out here. I love to look back at the march of time when it comes to Disneyland Park. My grandparents moved to Anaheim not long after the park opened. They lived right across the street, right across Ball Road. So I grew up with stories like, oh, before they built that hotel, you used to be able to see the steamboat going around or the train. To me, that always seemed like ancient history, right? Like Athens or Rome. And now that last summer we hit the 70th anniversary of Disneyland, it was trippy to sit there and think, oh, I've been here experiencing it for more than half of its history now. That's crazy. And not only that, but I kind of mentioned that DCA has a less extensive history, but DCA itself just this month turned 25 years old. And I had an annual pass to Disneyland and was a teenager when they started construction on DCA in the parking lot over here, and then opened up that DCA 1.0, which was much, much different than the version Bob Iger would later throw all that money at and fix. I mean, they had added some stuff to improve it before that, right? You know, Tower of Terror, Bugs Land. But it was that big expansion that really put DCA on the map, kind of righted some of its early wrongs, gave us Buena Vista Street and Cars Land, and kind of tied all the theming together into something that celebrated Walt Disney's Los Angeles and not just random snippets from California in general. Proving that when it comes to Disney parks, the more Walt in them, the more successful they're gonna be, I think. But anyway, the point of talking about all that is that that was 14 years ago this summer. And that all still feels brand spanking new to me, much less when they built this park. That still feels like relatively recent history. It was a quarter century ago. I mean, just next month, we're gonna be 6 years after the first lockdowns from the pandemic. Time will just not stand still. Progress will just not stand still. Well, I guess I shouldn't say progress. Things don't always progress linearly, right? Sometimes things change for the worse, but for better or for worse, things are always changing, which has certainly been true in my own life. I have rapidly been going through many changes lately, but before we circle back to me, let's just come out here and look at the opposite side's ticket booths, the ticket booths facing out onto Harbor Boulevard. They are all still intact, and in fact, one of them is still open. I know they're planning on building a whole new entrance and just completely redesigning the Harbor Boulevard side entrance to Disneyland. And so these ticket booths too inevitably will become a thing of the past, I think. Who knows what that transition is going to be like, but it's just crazy because I feel like these are brand new, like they just got here and they're already going away. Just truly makes you feel like indeed nothing is permanent. And of course, Disneyland ticket booths are hardly like the Great Pyramids or something built to last. But even if you were thinking about the pyramids or, you know, whatever, the people who built them, they are long gone. Now, the big change in my life, obviously, has been that one of my best friends of all time, Adam the Woo, has passed away, which is a heavy loss and would have been traumatic anyway it happened. Then, of course, with being involved behind the scenes and sort of the planning and the organizing of his celebration of life, it's just been stretched out abnormally long, the grieving process. And of course, I had a whole vision quest where I drove home and I was thinking about it in the car for weeks at a time. Then I got home and I've had to go to all the places that we used to hang out one at a time. Earlier this week, came and walked into Disneyland for the first time since it happened. And so each time you're kind of reliving it, although you get a little bit stronger at dealing with the grief and the sadness, and the memories turn more positive than they are kind of a reminder of the negative or the loss. It never gets better because it never changes, but it does get easier. Anyway, thankfully, we're not here today to talk about that, but I bring that up because that has kind of instigated many other life changes, not just for me, but for a number of Adam's friends. And here's a silver lining for you right away. I know of at least 4 people now who have had their lives saved, literally, because of Adam's passing. They've gone to the doctor, got themselves checked out, and found out that they were in pretty sketchy shape. Multiple of his other friends I know are trying to lose weight, going to doctors, figuring things out. I myself have had a problem, in addition to my other health problems, that I've kind of known about for a while but didn't do anything about, which is that for a couple of years now, Allie has been telling me that in my sleep, I stop breathing. And we're not talking about, you know, every once in a while, we're talking about kind of on a regular basis. There was none other than Adam's good friend Dan Bell, who was talking to me about how he went through a similar thing and recommended a site for me to get tested, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I have been diagnosed with moderate to severe sleep apnea, and so I did indeed order a machine, and since I've been home, I have been trying to use it. I literally just out there got off the phone with the doctor who said, oh, the incidents are lessening, it's working. But personally, I am still not used to wearing a Darth Vader mask on my face, and so I'm not sleeping all the way through the night yet. It has been a little bit disruptive when it comes to sleep, so I've been a little tired, which is why you haven't seen all that much of me this week. I'm sort of adjusting to the process, as it were. I don't really love having a suction hose on my face while I sleep like Darth Vader, but it is what it is. And anyway, in that same spirit of finally going and doing the sleep test, finally taking care of things that you know should have been taken care of for a long time, this is part of The conclusions that I came to driving all the way across the country, having that vision quest, really thinking deeply about this, is that there's a lot of things in my life that have been neglected. Got a lot of half-finished projects and cockamamie ideas and just messes in general in my life, things I've procrastinated on or let build up or let get away from me. And it's time to start taking care of those things because we're not guaranteed tomorrow. Tomorrow could be gone like that. So there were some health things that I was going to be taking care of in January that had to be put off, but other health things I've been putting off that I'm now taking care of or trying to. Then there's other things like after getting divorced, I had to live on a floor basically. I had a storage unit that got full of stuff people sent me or stuff I would acquire, stuff people would give to me, collectibles. Then when I moved into the house I have now, it became the garage and then the office that got full of stuff. And you know me, I also enjoy merchandise. I like keepsakes. So I've got stuff built up from road trips or stuff people gave us or stuff that was supposed to be sold in the antique store booth. Just stuff piled up, choking off my air. Things I always think, I'll deal with that eventually, you know, and just, it's come to the point now where it's like, no, this is the time. I don't need any more signs. It's pretty obvious this is the time where I've got to figure out what are the priorities, what matters, where do you want to be in 5 years, in 10 years, and most importantly, what do you want accomplished that's realistic before you leave this planet? So what are the most important things, if not the most important thing that needed to be cleaned up, that was up in the air and unfinished and sort of floating around for a long time? Is exactly what I was heading home to California at such great speed for. The first priority on my list, the first thing I knew needed to be taken care of. I came home for a wedding. And not just anybody's wedding, my wedding. 12 years ago, in 2014, on a warm summer night, a beautiful girl was leaving the tiki room and heading into Adventureland, just as I was coming out of Adventureland from the other side. And right over here, just past the beautiful masks created by none other than my friend Leroy Schmaltz, right down here in the middle of the path, right in front of these lights, I met that beautiful, friendly young girl who had just messaged me wanting to take a random picture with me because she'd seen my YouTube videos. So first we cut through the corner of the bazaar. I was going to take a picture in here. I was taking a lot of fun pics with people who had seen my videos by going, let's get props, let's hold up rubber snakes or whatever. She was like, that's not really what I was thinking. So we were looking around for any place that had light. And back then there was the entrance to Aladdin's Oasis over here. Kind of sort of a Agrabah style gate structure with a couple of glowing Middle Eastern style lamps in here. The only light we could find. So I came and stood right about here to pose for the photo, just to the side of the magic carpet here, which they've actually left in front of Tropical Hideaway, which I'll forever be grateful for. Really helps me nail down the spot. I'm getting ready to pose for the photo. She throws her arms around my neck, so I'm like, ugh! And the famous first photo of me and the girl who would become the love of my life was taken right here. First, she was just a fan of Randomland who wanted to take a picture, and then like 2 days later, I found out I was getting divorced. And then she started messaging me, and we became friends. And it was another year or so until she convinced me that we should be dating. But we always kind of counted our anniversary ever since from that moment we met to take that picture, because first of all, it was murky when the friendship started to become something else. She wanted it to be something else for a long time till I was finally like, okay. And then it's like, when did kind of a more romantic friendship turn into going steady and all that kind of stuff? I don't know. I don't even remember the day she moved in with me down here in Southern California. All I know is the moment that we met, July 22nd, 2014. And how often is it you can point to one moment, one picture, one push of a button in your life that literally changed the whole course of that life? As you see, and I've told this story many times, but that picture was so bad, I was making the weirdest face that I came back the next day to redo the picture. That's how bad I felt because she was so excited about it. That's how eventually she got the, you know, the DM info, and we were friends and talking on and off or whatever. And it literally changed my life. I think by the time the 60th anniversary of Disneyland rolled around the next year, it was like, I think I might marry this girl. She moved in with me in 2016, so only a little over a year after that. And from that day, from that decision, we were both super serious about it. Both of us fully intended, like, dude, we are gonna get married. It was not very long after that we did get engaged. We started looking at different wedding venues, realized just how expensive your classic wedding is, and realizing like, oh man, you know, like, want to invite the Random Land audience. We have so many friends that we want to invite. But eventually we did find a place. We found what we thought were the perfect people to conduct the ceremony. I'll tell you about that in a second. And we got so far that a date was actually set in 2020. Now there's no need for me to go into why in 2020 things went a little bit astray. And there was no wedding that year. First it got pushed back, then it got pushed back again, and then it was like, dude, California is not gonna let this thing happen. Not the way we planned anyways. So we were waiting for the pandemic to unlock, for restrictions on crowd sizes and things to unlock. And then Allie got sick. And I'm talking really sick. She was diagnosed with a very rare form of Crohn's disease. She had all kinds of internal problems that not only led to her needing life-saving surgeries that were quite expensive, but then after that, some rare, some brand new, some pretty experimental medication that was the only medication that actually kind of worked, kind of kept her Crohn's in check and kept her from needing more surgeries. And that medication cost $24,000 every 8 weeks. It was so brand new, there is no generic, there was no alternative. And that meant a whole new reality. The reality that, oh, we're not gonna be able to have just this sort of backyard wedding that we were gonna have. She married me, she would have had to go on my insurance. I talked to my insurance and several other companies. There was no way they were gonna pay for the medication that she needed to stay alive. And so that meant that for the foreseeable future, there was no possibility of us going and getting a marriage license and having our wedding in our friend Brett Iwan, none other than Mickey Mouse's backyard. Oh, and not only were we gonna have the wedding in Mickey Mouse's backyard, but the person doing the ceremony was gonna be none other than Bill Rogers, the voice of Disneyland, as in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you remember him? Amazing. And so all that was put to the side. There was no sign of a fairy godmother in sight. We were pretty sure we were going to be frozen like that forever. And people said to us for years, well, why don't you just get a church wedding after all? That's where weddings started. A sacrament and all that kind of things. Just do that at least in the meantime. But here's the thing, okay? And you have to bear with me here for just a second because I've got to explain. When I started this channel, I promised to never talk about sex, politics, or religion on the channel. Only things that bring people together, not the things that cause people to fight at Thanksgiving. I made a vow to that audience that I've never broken and do not want to break. Now, I'm not talking about like if we're, you know, visiting Notre Dame, of course we're gonna say this beautiful Catholic cathedral or whatever. If we're roaming through Salt Lake City, I'm gonna point it out and go, oh, look at that LDS temple over there or whatever, you know? So I don't mean like that. I mean including anything personal opinions about it, mostly because I don't want to sit there and argue with anybody. I don't judge anybody else, what they believe, how they choose to live, and I don't want anyone judging me or telling me what to do, right? I'm also not the smartest person in the world. I don't know what all the answers to life are, but allow me to bend the rules slightly this one time to just explain that there was a little bit of an issue there with me. After getting my divorce, I had not set foot in a church for a long time. There were some issues, some things that needed to be resolved for me that I put off, procrastinated, did not take care of for about a decade there. I didn't mean for it to be a decade, but it very much got away from me. And then obviously, with Adam's passing, it brought a lot of things back into focus for me. And mostly, it just showed me that instead of going around thinking like, there's no hurry, we'll get to it, there's very much a hurry in life because there's absolutely no guarantee that there will be a later to get to anything, right? And so, before I even left to Florida, I made some calls, worked out some of my issues, and well before I even left Florida to drive back home, a date was set, February 8th, for Allie and I to go up the Central California coast to a church where we were duly and truly and sacramentally married. The great news on top of that is that the medication she's been on for years that had no generics, no nothing, was extremely still brand new, experimental, and very, very expensive, finally got generics. And so it was like this door that had been locked and bolted shut against us for years, like this door that was shut, this gate that was closed that prevented us from moving forward or doing what we had wanted to do all these years, was suddenly thrown open. And finally, we got to get married. I got to marry the love of my life and make the beautiful Allie Warren my girlfriend and fiance, and I'd always say wife of my life, and I'd always tell her, don't forget you're my mistress too, you're all of the above. Finally became well and truly my wife. Sorry, I'm having to cut a lot. Very emotional. You know, that door felt so closed for so long that we just tried our best not to think about it, you know, make do. It's like, well, you're basically my wife, you know, you're basically my husband. Like, we know what we are to each other, it's okay. We'd even decided it was such a complicated story, it was so frustrating to explain to people over and over again that we were just gonna start calling each other wife and husband. We made plans to buy rings for Christmas for each other because we were just kind of tired of it, you know? Like I said, the door was closed, it just deadbolted and chained and locked for so long, I just thought nothing else is gonna change, right? And then, you know, my best friend, my best guy friend, Adam, passed away. And like I said, not just me, but it lit a fire under a lot of us to just get things checked out health-wise. It was the ultimate reminder that life is but a vapor. None of us are guaranteed tomorrow. Life can go quick. And like I said, for me, it was a big wake-up call that I needed to get my priorities straight. In here, in my house, in my life. Instead of just staring at that closed door that had been in front of us for so long, just going, oh well, it's locked, I guess. For the first time in a long time in my life, I knocked on that door and it opened. And so you can call it what you want. A set of coincidences, good timing, good luck, you know, the universe putting things into place, manifestation, you can call it whatever you want. But for us, it's been a miracle, and that's all I gotta say about that. Now, sorry, having said all of that, originally when we were gonna get married in Mickey Mouse's backyard and have Bill Rogers, the voice of Disneyland, do the ceremony for us, it was all set up kind of for other people. It was set up to include as many of our friends as possible and kind of special guests. Obviously we had a bit of a celebrity setting there and a celebrity kind of officiant. Allie had not only picked out but purchased the perfect wedding dress. I was getting all fitted up for suits, and most of the money, instead of a big reception, was going into staging everything just really well decorated, getting professional microphones, professional cameras, and someone to kind of record the whole thing, produce the whole thing, so that we could put it online for all of our friends in Random Land. And that way, even though the in-person part of the wedding was going to be very small, we could kind of invite everybody, right? And that's normal, that's what you do these days. These days, weddings are basically kind of about everybody else but the bride and groom, right? You have a big party, you get everybody together, you spend a lot of money. And no, things did not go according to our original plan, but I have to say we're both very happy. And this is gonna sound weird, but it turned out a lot better than the way we had originally planned it. Because rather than doing something that started with us loving each other and then turned into a big party for everyone else, we ended up having a wedding that was just about her, me, and the man upstairs, if you know what I mean. She wore a $20 Amazon white dress. I wore this jacket. I just put a shirt and tie underneath it. Because we had knocked and that door had opened like that, in the spirit of keeping it between me and her and our maker, we did not complicate it in any way. We did not tell anybody or invite anybody. Even our own parents did not know until the very, very last second. And in fact, I would show you video, but we didn't even take any video, and neither of us took any pictures. There was a few pictures taken by people who were present. My brother took a picture of us with the rings that I posted on Instagram. I'm sure my mom and dad probably took some pictures. I wasn't paying attention. It just wasn't about that. I don't know how else to explain. They were all be like, what? You got married and I wasn't invited? It just wasn't about that. So much so that at first, we weren't sure we were gonna tell anybody. We thought, you know what, we've got the rings. We already started kind of sneakily sneaking in husband and wife before the actual wedding, because we were gonna be sneaky. We're gonna keep it private, just keep it to ourselves and not make a big hullabaloo about it. But then of course, about a week after the ceremony came Valentine's Day, and we were kind of sitting around looking at that good picture that my brother took of us in the rings, and we kind of thought, what the heck, it's Valentine's Day, love is in the air. So I posted it on Instagram. And you know what? The good side of that is maybe it's a little less sneaky. Maybe it opens up to the world now the knowledge that we've finally tied the knot. The cat's out of the bag, so to speak, and it may not be as private, but at least now maybe people will finally stop asking, when are you guys gonna get married? And of course, now that some people have found out, everybody keeps asking us, what do you need? Where can we send a present or whatever? But we got plenty of spatulas and spoons. We've lived together for quite a while now. We put the cart before the horse, so we already had the cart and all of the cart contents. So we appreciate the sentiment very much, but we don't need any spatulas or kitchen shears. We're pretty good on that stuff. We're covered. No honeymoon or anything like that. I mean, from start to finish, we made this decision maybe December 23rd or 24th. I got back home from my vision quest for maybe 2, maybe 3 days before we left to go up to Central California and do the wedding. So there wasn't even like a honeymoon plan or anything like that. We might start a savings account and maybe put some money away for a rainy day honeymoon fund, but everybody was like, where are you going for your honeymoon? We did spend one night in Solvang and, you know, fed the ostriches at Ostrichland, so maybe that counts. No, but in all seriousness, I told one of my friends, you know what, we have had a 10-year honeymoon before even the wedding. It has been amazing. I met a girl who just wanted to take a quick picture with me in the parks, wouldn't leave me alone, became my best friend, and then the absolute love of my life. And although we've had our trials and tribulations, and of course, tests have come our way, there has not been one day since we started dating each other where we were not truly, madly, and deeply in love with each other. I mean, I legitimately still get butterflies every time I walk into a room where she's at. There's been haters and idiots that want to say what they want to say, like there always is. But even with the health problems, the hospital visits, the trials and tribulations, the ups and downs, even with all my George Bailey moments where I haven't built the skyscrapers I've wanted to build and all the things, we have been incredibly blessed, incredibly lucky, incredibly devoted to each other. I could not be any happier with the love of my life, with being married to her. And like George Bailey, I feel like the richest man in town, you know. Still a lot to do, still a lot to put right in my life. Still a lot of people to contact that it's been too long since I've spoken to. Still a lot of practical things in life to figure out, a lot of stuff to purge, which hopefully maybe I'll film some of it before I get rid of some of this stuff. There's still bills and taxes and funerals and work to do and normal life ahead of both of us, which means there will undoubtedly be more trials and tribulations and things to test your strength. But at least one thing, and the most important thing, has been put right. And I just felt like this morning I wanted to share that with you guys, share our little miracle with the world, and just say, you know, if you feel like the door is locked and shut, things in your life are not exactly moving the way that you had planned on them moving, you feel stuck, trapped, things are locked in, they're never going to change, I just want to encourage you, don't quit knocking on that door, because you never know when it'll open. When I was here that night, 12 years ago, I already knew I was getting divorced. I knew for more than a year. I didn't know the final nail in that coffin was gonna come literally 48 hours later, but I knew my life was gonna change. I thought for the worse. I thought it would never get any better. I remember walking around Disneyland that week with my friend Tyler Evans before I ever met Allie, saying like, oh, I could see it all before me. My life is gonna be over. Everything's gonna be wrecked. I'll probably never meet anybody again. And then we were laughing like, oh, if I ever did meet somebody, it'd probably be here at Disneyland, and what are the odds that's gonna happen? Yeah, I met a friend that same week at Disneyland, right? Or someone that would become a friend. But I had no idea that over the next, 6-9 months, I was going through like the greatest despair I'd ever felt, and just the worst feelings. My life was over. I thought I had lost everything. Just everything was heimbucked for all time. I had no idea that the seeds of my future happiness had already been sown. So don't lose heart, don't lose courage, don't lose faith. Trust that if you knock enough times, that door might open. And if you don't get cynical, you don't get negative, you don't accept the worst, and you keep your eyes open, the best might still be yet to come. Right, Jimberly? Jimberly knows what I'm talking about. Anyway, I hope that encourages you. It's been a long road for me and Allie. Just because I don't need any spoons doesn't mean you can't send her a card if you want to. She is, after all, a beautiful, blushing bride, and I won't deny you that. But mainly, I wanted to share this information with you. Not so much that people would wish us joy or whatever, and thank you if you already did. It's really nice. Overwhelming amount of love and everything on Instagram and all that, so I really appreciate it. But mostly I just thought this was a good time to share this and encourage anyone out there who's feeling low, feeling lonely, you're feeling down, you're feeling trapped. If you have felt the bitter sting of disappointment or seen your plans collapse or lost loved ones, and you've had that feeling like things are never going to get better, things are never going to change, this is it, this is the new reality, everything's horrible, everything sucks, everything's over. Just remember that the man who says he can do something and the man who says he can't are usually both right. I have been there. I have felt that disappointment. I have felt trapped. I have felt depressed. I have felt like nothing would ever get better. I have had the rug pulled out from under me in my life more times than I could tell you about. If I've learned anything, is that the future is unwritten. Don't give up. Don't close that book, because the next page could change everything. You close that book and you put it on the shelf, the story's over. You keep reading, and you never know when that next chapter is gonna start. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. I know I didn't articulate that all that clearly. Still getting used to my Darth Vader machine, and I'm not sleeping very well the last few days. But I suppose, given enough time, I could get used to anything. So wish me luck. I'll see you guys in Random Land. I'll see you over on Instagram, Facebook, Patreon, all of the places. Oh, by the way, special shout out to my friend Paul and Kaya from the Oklahoma City Wonder House, who were at Disneyland today and I was talking to in the middle of this video for a long time. Remember, as I have great cause to remember and to reflect on in the past couple of days, there's a lot of negativity in this world, a lot of horrors, a lot of hardships, and a lot of rude, bad, dumb people. But it's also absolutely amazing, full of incredible people, and there are more good people than bad. There are more helpers than hurters, if that makes sense. And like I said, the future is unwritten. The future is whatever you make of it, so make it a good one. All right, that's all the damage I can do for today. Thanks for hanging out. Obviously, between funerals and weddings and sleep apnea machines and trying to straighten life out, and of course, this memorial for my friend Adam coming up on March 8th, which I hope you guys join us on the live stream for. Things have been a little crazy, a little unusual. Nothing's really going according to plan, but I hope that we get back to a more regular schedule of videos very soon. We're just a couple of weeks away now from the memorial, and then a lot less of my time will be taken up with planning and calling people back and forth and fielding lots and lots of complaints. And even before that happens, we might be able to escape Orange County for a couple of days of adventure on the road, fingers crossed. There are also a lot of road trip plans coming up for March and April and into the summer. Got America 250, Route 66's 100th anniversary, and a whole lot more besides.
For now, we've done our duty. It's time to go home and sleep well.
See you next time. I forgot to mention, if anybody out there knows a great dentist in Orange County, let me know. I had a pretty good dentist lined up at their office, stopped being able to prescribe medication, and I am one of those people that cannot get drilled on unless you put me as far out as you can. So let me know. What else? Am I forgetting anything else? Probably. But that's what the next video is for. All right, see you then. Things have been a little topsy-turvy.